St. Michael's Episcopal Church began its journey over 60 years ago. We are blessed to have had our current building fully paid off for these past nearly 40 years. Our present structure was originally dedicated in 1977 as a fellowship hall that was to be followed in the next few years by a sanctuary. Now, almost 40 years later, we are still worshiping in what was supposed to be our fellowship hall. Therefore, St. Michael's is launching its capital campaign to enhance the inside function and appearance of our sanctuary and its outside visibility. Our mission statement avows, by being disciples of Christ, we invite others to be disciples of Christ through our daily prayer, weekly worship, regular Bible study, having a spiritual friend, giving to the church and outside the church. Our present vision is to transform our building into a more inviting, beautiful, and wonderful space that will ultimately help us fulfill our mission. As you look at the existing sanctuary, note the low ceiling and tiny cross behind the altar. As you look up at the ceiling, the styrofoam faux beams immediately draw your attention. The altar area has a limited amount of space, which gives the sense of crowding furniture into an enclosed space that is too small to easily accommodate all the activity necessary to lead a worship experience. Also note how the overhead screen obscures the altar during our 9:30 contemporary service. As you gaze to the back and to your right, you will note our existing choir area where the choir sits facing the altar, not the congregation, thus limiting its ability to lead the congregation in song. Although we have made significant improvements to our sound system, our equipment is scattered and out in the open, thus limiting its functionality, aesthetics, and safety. A trip to Epiphany Church, which was designed by our current architect, allows us a glimpse into a future vision for St. Michael's. As you enter the sanctuary at Epiphany, note the sense of spaciousness created by a higher ceiling. Note how the altar sits back from the congregation, giving it a sense of holiness. The higher ceiling gives greater room for a larger cross, thereby drawing attention to the one we have come to worship. As you approach the altar area, you will note more space between the altar rail and the first pew to allow for plays that our children perform during the year. The increased space both in front of and behind the altar allows for a better flow of activity necessary to lead the worship experience. Note, too, that the sacristy here at Epiphany is located next to the altar area, giving the altar guild easy access as it prepares and then clears the communion vessels before and after each service. The greater area on both sides of the altar means that we can remove the screen from in front of the altar and put a screen on each side of the altar. This change will not only enhance the worship experience at our 9:30 service, but will also allow us to more effectively use the screens in other presentations as needed. As you look to your left, imagine our choir now facing the congregation on a slightly raised platform, thereby enabling it to lead us in song more effectively. The addition of an audiovisual room in the back of the church will allow us to safely store equipment and to have it ready for use at a moment's notice. Recessed speakers will add to the aesthetics of the worship space. A cry room in the back of the church will provide an alternative area for our growing number of new families with small children. As you gaze at the outside of the present St. Michael's Fellowship Hall, you will see a building that looks more like an office building or a large home. We believe that by raising the roof and adding a steeple, we will not only enhance the beauty of our present building, but will also help everyone recognize us as a church. At St. Michael's, as we transform our sanctuary into a more beautiful place, we can deepen our prayer life and invite others to join us as we engage in a more meaningful and joy-filled worship experience. We trust that as we put our faith in God, He will surely continue to bless St. Michael's and lead us toward growth that invites us to see God working all around us and through each and every one of us as we build God's kingdom.